Now, after we have discarded those images which are totally useless, then we are going now to, and we have oriented our radiographs properly according to the proper occlusal plane, then we're going now to orient, or we take the steps on orienting the radiographs. Now, first, to start with, as we said, we should know our radiographic anatomy properly. From the first look at the radiograph, you should decide whether this is for the maxilla or the mandible from the anatomical landmarks, teeth basically, and the anatomical landmarks which are present. Now, if you look at this radiograph, which is shown in here, you will see that we can see the inferior dental canal over here. This is one. You will see the trabecules. If you have a closer look at the trabecules, here which is typical in the mandible, they run horizontally, parallel to the inferior border of the mandible. Okay, and then if we look back here, we will see the external oblique ridge. So this definitely belongs to the mandible. And if you look at the teeth, you will see that these are two rooted teeth. Okay, so this is for the mandible. Next, you're going to locate the area closest to the midline. What do we mean by the midline? If this is the 7, this is the 6, and then the 5, 4, 3. And so this is the area closest to the midline. Next, you're going to draw an arrow from the midline that will extend backwards posteriorly or distal to the midline. If this line is extending or directed towards the right, it means that this is the left side of the patient. This is the left side of the patient. Let us have another example. Again, mandible, inferior dental canal. Look at the type of the horizontal direction of the trabecules. 4, 5, 6. The 7 here has an extra root, which is an exception, and this is the 8. Okay? So 5, 6, 7, 8, and this is the mandible. Where is the midline? This is the area closest to the midline. From the midline, I will draw an arrow that extends to the distal side, and I will see the direction of the arrow. The arrow here is directed towards the left. It means that this is the right side of the patient. Again, mandible. How do I know it's the mandible? This is the inferior border of the mandible and the bone trabecules, and this is the 5, 6, 7 is lost, and the 8 with an extra root. Again, I don't know why those extra roots are coming in the lower in the mandibular teeth, which is an exception. We know that we have 2 roots, or sometimes 4 roots even, but an extra root in the middle, it is an anomaly that we don't see so often. However, so if this is the 5, this is the 6, this is the 7. So this is the area closest to the mandible. Then I will draw a line that goes posteriorly. The line is directed towards the right. It means that this is the left side of the patient. Same, the mandible, 5, lost 6, 7, and 8. Okay, now this area is again for the mandible, because you don't see here a maxillary sinus, you don't see a mental foramen, but you see, if you don't see this area is for the mandible. If you see a maxillary sinus, or you see a zygomatic process of the maxilla, these are the questionable cases, by the way. You don't know sometimes, is this the maxilla or the mandible? You look at the teeth. If the teeth are not present, you will go down, or you will go in an apical direction, and you will notice or observe the anatomical landmarks which are present. If it is a maxilla, in this area you would expect to see at least the maxillary sinus or the zygomatic process of the maxilla. Both of these are not present here, so this is this is the mandible, and this is the midline, or the tooth which is closest to the midline. From it, I will draw a line, where is the line extending? The line extending to the left, so this is the right side of the patient. How about the central incisors? In the central incisors, imagine yourself looking at a panoramic radiograph. If you don't like to follow this line, these steps, imagine that you're looking at an OPG. Let's go back to our way of orienting. This is the midline. From the midline, you're going to extend or draw two lines. Both of them, they will go in a distal direction, distal to the midline that you have located. So this line is directed in a right direction. So these teeth are the lower left of the patient. And if this is going to the right, then this is the left. Sorry, this is going to the left. So this is the right side of the patient. Okay, so you look at the radiograph, you draw a line and see where the line is going in a distal direction. And then you reverse the side. Before I leave this slide, how do I know that this is a lower central incisors? From the teeth, right? And if the teeth are not present, I will go to the lingual foramen or lingual pit, the mental ridge, and the mental fossa over here. So this area is for the mandible. Another radiograph. This is definitely for the lower. One, because of the direction of the trabecules, they run in a horizontal direction. Two, because of the number of the roots of the teeth which are present. Three, the external oblique ridge and the mylohyoid ridge, this area. Okay? So this is the midline, and this is the distal to the midline. Where is the line directed? Directed to the right, so this is the left side of the patient. Another radiograph, mandible or maxilla. Mandible definitely, because this is the external oblique ridge, and this is the a piece of the inferior dental canal. So 4, 5, 6, 7 lost, 8 lost, external oblique ridge. Midline is over here, and the line that it is drawn in a distal direction extend to the left side, so this is the right side of the patient. Another radiograph over here, which are again for the same patient but for different areas. Midline, of course, both of them are mandible because of the trabecules. As you can see, trabecules and the inferior dental canal over here, the inferior dental canal over here. Okay, now 5, 6, 7, 8. The line is extended towards the right, so this is the left side of the patient. On the other hand, if you see at this, if you look at this radiograph, mental foramen over here, superimposed of the radiolucency of the periapical pathology over here, okay, and this is the 6, the 7, and the 8, and the line is extending towards the left side, so this is the right side of the patient. Okay, maxilla or mandible, definitely this is a maxilla, because this is the inverted Y over here. This is the medial wall of the nasal cavity. This is the floor of the maxillary sinus. And this is the floor of the nasal cavity. Now have a look at the trabecules in this area. You see, unlike in the mandible, they do not run in a horizontal direction, but they are randomly distributed with the small narrow spaces. So this is definitely for the maxilla. Okay, if this is the lateral incisor, this is definitely the canine from the crown shape and the root shape, and this is the 4. We can see here a radio opacity, which can be a bony inostosis. Now we're not discussing these, but we are. If this is the midline and the line which goes in a distal to the midline is extending towards the left. So this radiograph is for the right side of the patient. Maxilla, how do we know? The zygomatic process of the maxilla, the shadow of the zygomatic arch, and this is the floor of the maxillary sinus over here. This area that you can see is the coronoid process when the patient opens, and the random appearance or the random arrangement of the bone trabecules. So this is for the maxilla. Okay, we've located the maxilla mandible. Now let's locate the midline. This is the area that goes most distally, right? Okay, so this is the midline. From the midline, I would draw the arrow. The arrow is directed to the left, so this is for the right side of the patient. Okay, another edentulous area, which is flipped in a 90-degree. First of all, is this the mandible or the maxilla? Do you see any trace of a maxillary sinus? Do you see any trace of the nasal fossa or the inverted Y? No. All of these are not present. So this is the mandible. Then you are going to flip the your radiograph on the computer so that the correct occlusal plane will show over here, right? So once it's there, you're going to locate the midline. How do I know where is the midline? You will locate it again from the direction of the occlusal plane, and then you're going to locate. Here you can see a trace of a lower canine. Okay, all the other teeth are lost. Now, if this is the midline, then your arrow directed from the midline distally is extending to the left. So this is the right side of the patient. Mandibular right side of the patient. Again, lower central incisors. Okay, this central is lost over here. Central lateral canine. Central lost. Lateral and the canine is not showing. So this is the midline. And then you're going to draw your arrows. The one which goes to the right. So this is the left side of the patient, and the one which goes to the left is the right side of the patient. Maxilla or mandible? Maxilla, because we can see the floor, and this is the maxillary sinus ovary. Okay, now the patient here is taken with clasps of the removable partial denture. This should not be done, by the way. Anything should be removed outside of the oral cavity. But now let's discuss the area that is shown over here. Now, this is the maxillary sinus. This is a number 6 tooth, and this is the 5. So this is the midline. This is the area closest to the midline. From the midline, you will draw your arrow, and then the arrow is extending to the right. So this is the left side of the patient. Maxillary or mandibular teeth. Mandibular, I can see the external oblique ridge over here. Okay, so this is the most distal part of the area, and this is the mesial part. So if this line is extending to the left from the midline posteriorly, so this is the line is extending to the right, so this is the left side of the patient. Have a look at this radiograph. This radiograph is for a child patient or pediatric patient, and you can see it's in the mixed dentition stage. The lower D, E is here, and 6 is erupting. Now this is for the lower jaw because you can see two roots of the lower six, and this is a shadow of the 7, or the crown of the 7, 5 and 4, which are still erupting, or not, I mean still in the formation stage. Have a look at the direction of the bone trabecules. You will see that they run in a horizontal direction, so this is for the mandible. This is the first step. Second step is that this is the area which is closest to the midline. So this is the deciduous 4, deciduous 5, and this is the 6. From the midline, we're going to draw the arrow. The arrow is directed towards the right, so this is the left side of the patient. So the same rules apply. Actually, you locate which this is the maxilla or mandible, and then you locate whether this is a right or left. Now let's have a look at this Bitewing radiograph. Let's do like a test. First of all, this is mounted properly because this is the proper occlusal plane. And please have a look at the direction of the trabecules over here, which run in a horizontal direction. Compare it to the maxilla. Next step, we know now this Bitewing is properly placed, so we will locate our midline. If this is the canine, 4, 5, 6, and 7, so this is the midline. Then we will draw the arrow. The arrow is extending towards the right, so this is the left side of the patient. Another radiograph over here. Correctly placed? Yes. Occlusal plane is right. This is the mandible with its typical horizontal direction and the teeth. And this is the maxilla with its typical direction of the bone trabecules. Okay, the roots here do not show always, because this radiograph is meant only for the for the crowns. Okay, so canine 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the area closest to the midline, and then we draw the arrow. The arrow is directed towards the right, so it means that this radiograph is for the left side of the patient. Okay. Maxilla or mandible? Maxilla. Why? Because we can see the floor of the maxillary sinus in this area, plus the types of the trabecules, plus of course the shape of the roots. See the upper 4 has 2 roots over here, and this is the midline over here. And then we will draw the arrow. The arrow, this is the area closest to the midline, and this is the area that extends posteriorly. So our arrow here is directed to the right. So this is the left side of the patient. Okay, let's have a look at this radiograph. Maxilla or mandible? Mandible. Why? Because I can see the inferior border of the mandible. I can see the mental foramen over here. Plus I can see the external oblique ridge, and this is the area closest to the mandible. This is the 5, and this is the tooth has been extracted with a retained root over here. If this is the midline, I will extend the arrow. It will be directed towards the left, so this is the right side of the patient. Again, maxilla, because I can see the floor of the maxillary sinus. I can see a shadow of the coronoid process. This is the maxillary tuberosity with the typical trabeculation of bone, and these are 2 implants which are placed in this area. So this is the midline over here, and this is the area which is distal to it. The line the arrow from the extended from the mesial side to the distal side is extending in to the right. So this is the left side of the patient. An occlusal radiograph. Occlusal radiograph taken to verify the presence of a stone in the submandibular gland duct. Okay. Now, back again. If this is our midline. Sorry, this is the midline. Okay, and the line X, this is of course definitely for the lower, because you know, it's done for the, this is the inferior border of the mandible, you can see it over here. If this is the midline, then the line extending here to the right, so this is the left side of the patient, and the line extending here to the left side, so this is the right side of the patient. So the duct is, or this stone is present in the left orifice of the submandibular gland duct. Maxilla or mandible. Maxilla, I can see the zygomatic process of the maxilla. I can see the floor of the maxillary sinus, okay, and the type of the bone trabecules that you can see it over here. Canine, 4, and this is the 5, area for the 6, this is the midline, okay. And this is the area which, if I extend from the midline to distally, so the line will be directed in to the left, so this is the area of the right maxillary premolar area. Pedo, same patient, 6 over here, okay, and the 5 on 4, 4, 5, and the 6. Now, this is the maxilla or the mandible. I can say that from the shape of the roots of the or the number of the roots for the deciduous teeth, that this is for the mandible. Okay. Now, when we're done with the mandible, we will locate the area closest to the midline. So this is the midline, and this is the distal area, and this is the reverse of it. This is the area closest to the midline, and this is the distal to it. So this line is extending to the left, so this area is for the right mandible teeth, and the line here is extending to the right, so this is for the left side of the mandible. Have a look at this radiograph. 2 roots, okay, 2 roots over here, so this is the mandible, right? Deciduous teeth. The area closest to the midline is this one, so this is the midline, and this is the area which is far from the midline, the distal. The line is extending to the left, so this is the right side of the mandible. Maxilla or mandible. Maxilla, because I can see the shape, however the roots are totally resolved over here, but this is for the maxilla from the direction of the root and the direction of the trabecules. Midline, distal side, line drawn is heading towards the right, so this is the left side of the patient. Okay, and this I will leave these radiographs for you for further exercise. I want you, please, I hope I made my point clear in the direction of the or how to locate whether this is the maxilla or the mandible, and then you are going have a look at the radiographs that you will have, and please follow the following: locate maxilla or mandible, locate midline, draw an arrow from midline posteriorly and see where this line extends. What you see, if it goes to the right, this is for the left side of the patient. If it goes to the left, then this is the right side of the patient. Thank you very much.